Hi guys, it's good to see you. I am going to make a monochromatic card today. I'm going to show you how to do that. So the very first thing that I like to do is I like to go around my craft room and in my supplies and just start looking for things that are in the same color palette. And so I wanted to kind of give you some ideas on how to do that. My focus here today is that I want to start inspiring you and teaching you how to create with things that you have. Although I know getting new things is always so much fun, because I'm addicted to new stuff too. So, but I still am here to show you how to go about creating that. So the very first thing I do is I start with a card base, because I'm making a monochromatic card. But if you're doing a piece of art, which is also so much fun to do on a piece of canvas, just grab your piece of canvas to start with, and you can just lay down a color of paint as your base. So for card making, I'm going to start with my card base, and I decided I wanted to do something in this navy blue tone. Hopefully you guys can see that this is navy and not black. And then what I did was I found markers in that same color. I went and found some stamp inks that were kind of a light and dark in that same kind of idea. So here we have, faded jeans and chipped sapphire together. I thought those were both really nice colors. And then I decided to find some decorative papers. And these papers here, a couple of them are from the Graphic 45 Ocean Blue collection, these two. And I really loved how this color is in both of these. And then the back side you get some other patterns there. And then this paper, which I thought was really cool. One side is floral, which we're not going to use. And this side has kind of a navy, like small geometric shape, which I really liked. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is to get started, I'm going to start with my card base here. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to score that. And so now we're going to have your card base. Okay. So what we're going to do here is on the front of the card, in case you're like, what the heck is scoring? Scoring is when you put that fold line in the card. So now we're just going to put on the front of the card here. So I wanted my first piece that I'm going to be working with, I wanted to use something in this octopus paper because I thought it was so cool. So what I'm going to do here, just to kind of get started on my idea, whoops, there we go, scissors. I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to cut, I'm not doing this like super particularly here, I'm just going to cut a little chunk of this out. I'm just going to start cutting out some of these little tentacles, and I'm just kind of going with the moment here. I'm kind of getting inspired as I go, because I don't really know what I'm going to be creating or what it's going to look like. That's kind of the fun of working with a monochrome card, is that you don't really know, you kind of just get inspired by color. And that is something that, you know, I'm always looking for things that bring me joy and happiness in life, and so I want things that are that inspire happiness. And so something that I really like that inspires my happiness is I love when the colors kind of inspire other versions of the same color. So that's why I always tell people my favorite color is rainbow, because yellow looks best next to green and next to orange, and blue looks best next to purple and next to green. And so I really like when the colors are all together. So when you're working in a monochrome card, you're working in the rainbow of that color. So you're working in your light all the way down to your dark. And so this color is the navy into this denim blue. That's what that color is here. And so in this kind of monochrome kind of color, actually this is probably just a little bit more royal blue than what I was working with before, but that's okay. We're going to keep going with it. And so you're working with kind of your light and dark tones. If you get down and you have all your things you're kind of pulling together and you're like, oh, I love this idea. And you're like, the very first thing when you're trying to pull things together, start with pull the thing out that doesn't belong. So if you have all your cool things together and you're like, oh, I love this, but something doesn't seem right, just tell yourself, well, remove the thing that doesn't make sense, and then you can pull it out. I always like to, when I'm working in doing cards like this, I like to work in a theme. So I'm kind of doing kind of an oceany kind of a theme here, as well as a color palette. And the color palette, of course, is this kind of denim blue kind of color that I'm kind of working with. Denim blue / navy kind of tones here. Okay, I'm going to cut off this last little guy here. All right, so I'm just enjoying that this guy is all tentacled out. I love everything tentacly. It makes me very happy. Some of you guys know that already about me. You're like, oh yeah, I know Ellie loves tentacles. Tentacle everything. All right. Now, I may not even use all these tentacles here, but I'm definitely going to use some of them. So That's the important part. Okay, so now I could put this directly on the front of my card. Ah, so cool. I am already just loving this. However, I really would like to have a little bit more separation here. And so this is going to be my card base, my layering piece here, and it's going to go on my card base. And so what I have is I have this kind of, I chose this off-white. Now, I know you're thinking, oh, Ellie, this is no longer blue. That's okay. Don't worry about it. We'll get there. We'll get there. And so I wanted to show about how that when you're having these other colors here, you can pop things by picking up other colors that are in the papers that you're working with. And so another color that may work out well if you're building this card is maybe you wanted to pick up some of this white. That would be another option if you're using some of these things that are white. So look for other things in your image that you might want to use and incorporate. So here, this image is off-white, so I'm going to be using off-white. Okay, so now I want to colorize this paper a little bit. And so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to move all my scraps out of the way. And I'm going to get out my craft mat, if I can find it. Aha! Okay, so when you have, I'm always looking for new ways to create texture. I love to create texture. I just think it's really fun and enjoyable to do. So I am going to find something in my house here that I can create some texture with. Let's see here. I do this one quite a bit, but we'll try. Ooh, actually, sorry guys, I'm just randomly finding things in my house I can create texture with. Like, oh, this is fun. Oh, this is fun. Ooh, this is fun. Okay, so this is some mesh ribbon I just came across, which I know is totally the wrong color. But what if we laid this down and did some fun stenciling on there? How cool would that be? All right, I didn't bring my sponges with me today because I'm currently at home right now, so I'm picking up some different things. Okay, so I'm using this mesh ribbon as a stencil here. I just found some random things laying around my house. So paper towels also create a really cool texture, which is kind of neat. So you can pick up stamp ink by pressing into your ink pad with a paper towel. And let's see if this is going to work here. I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to create texture. I'm probably going to have to grab a sponge to create my texture here. Sorry, you guys are just going to have to bear with me with the creative process. So I decided I'm going to use my my paper towel here to create this blue texture on my background, and then we'll go back in and I'll figure out something. I gotta find a sponge. I'm sure I have a sponge around here somewhere. An ink sponge for applying inks. Okay, so I'm gonna apply this texture here. So this is gonna give what's happening here is that I'm getting this kind of blue tone here with a little bit of texture that I created with this ink pad. Okay. All right. Okay, and then you can also, so this is going to be kind of a light texture that I've kind of created here, okay? So now I'm going to take this, the actual ink pad itself, and I'm actually going to rub it across the paper a little bit. So, and as I rub it this way, I'm kind of catching the edge, so it kind of creates some darkness on either side. And so we kind of get something that kind of looks like that, okay? All right. Now, let's see here. I was really hoping to use that texture, but I might just have to wait. Oh, this is coming along so cool. All right. Okay, so then I'm also something else I kind of pulled out. These little gems, which are really cool. Now, technically, I know you guys are like, that's not blue. I know it isn't, but it is really cool, and they kind of look like little droplets of water, which I thought was really fun. So I'm going to be incorporating that a little bit. And then, let's see here. So my sentiment, I know I'm going to put on here. So that's what I'm going to focus on next. This is a nice little sentiment set. This comes from Tailored Expressions. And I think I'm going to choose the Thinking of You. I think I really like that. I think that's a nice option. So let me pull out my acrylic blocks here. Oh, where are you, acrylic blocks? There we are. Okay. And I decided I wanted Thinking of You, which is this one right here. Now I'm going to line up my word so that it's straight with my block, because you can't see through this stamp. So that way when I stamp down, I know that it's going to land in the right spot. I decided I'm going to use the same colored ink to stamp my image that I also inked up the edges with, because I want the color to match. Now, when you're doing something like this, you're probably like, oh, how awkward, because it doesn't really fill up the space, but actually that's okay. I'm going to put these away. Actually, just put those to the side right now. So I kind of want to do something kind of like that. And so I want to frame out my picture a little bit, or my sentiment a little bit, so there's a little bit more of a focal point. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to cut along this edge. If you have a paper cutter, that also works out really well. I know it's not perfect, but that's okay. Good enough. All right. And then I really liked the idea of having this kind of as like a kind of a little banner. Actually, what do I want to do there? Yeah, I want to do a little banner. I like to do little banners. I just think they're fun. So to do a little banner, you just kind of do the little chevron kind of thing by cutting from one corner into towards the middle, and then do the same thing with the other side. Okay. All right, and I kind of like the idea of having the tentacles maybe around it. Let's see what I can do about that. Ooh, that's kind of fun. It's kind of fun. I'll kind of come back to that concept in a minute. All right, so then I'm going to do something kind of like this. I like that. I like that. Okay, now I have some fun ribbon. All right, now it's time to incorporate some of these other things. So, oh, notice that I decided not to incorporate that, but maybe I still will. Maybe I will. That might not match as well as I want to, but that's okay. All right, so now I'm going to follow the edge of this pattern paper here because I like the idea of having a fun little edge. I'm going to use my paper cutter and trim a little section of it off. Oops, sorry. Sorry for that loud bang. Okay. So I kind of like the idea of having a little border. Okay. And so what I'm going to do is when I'm not sure what to add in, I actually like to follow the pattern a little bit of the paper because that's a nice way. It kind of gives you a nice little guide. So then you have a little pattern kind of incorporated into your paper that then you can use as a cute little border. That way you don't have to necessarily use die kits to get a fun little border that has a cute little image in it. You can just follow your paper design. So something like this. I don't know if you guys can see that. Okay. Ooh, I think I'm going to put this right down here at the bottom. I'm going to give it just a little bit. Maybe I want to incorporate it here. Let's see. I think I want to put it right here along this edge. But I like that that's showing still, so I'm going to keep that there. I'll go ahead and glue that down. So going with a collage card can be kind of fun because you don't really know what the end will be. You know, you have a little bit of a concept. Like for me, I knew I was going to do a thinking of you card, but aside from that, I didn't really know where I was going to go from there. So it's kind of fun to kind of just create and kind of do some different things and just to kind of see what you kind of come up with. You know, just because it can be kind of fun, you know, just to create things. All right, I think I want to incorporate a couple of these little fishies. So what am I going to do here? I think I'm going to do this guy. And I'm going to do this little guy. So something else I wanted to show you is how I have this large image here, and then I'm going to do a medium image and a small image. If you do all your images the exact same size, that can sometimes be a little bit too much and a little bit too busy for your eyes. You really do need to have areas for your eyes to rest. And so when you're doing collage cards like this, make sure that if you have a lot of pattern, that you're using solid papers or things that kind of look solid from a distance to break up all the different patterns. Because you really want your sentiment to really be your focal point right here, right? You don't want your embellishments to be taking away from your focal point. You want them to be embellishing your focal point. I know you guys have heard me say that a lot, but it's true. Okay, all right, so I've got some little fishies. I'm going to do another little fishy here. I know it's kind of annoying watching me fussy cut, but you never know what you're going to learn when I'm just randomly chatting about things. All right. Okay. Okay. All right. So now I have a couple little fishies in here. Kind of cute. All right. Okay. And I want this guy to have a little bit of dimension behind him, so I'm going to use a pop dot behind him. But since I don't have a pop dot here at the moment, I'll probably just use a little piece of chipboard because that's what I have laying around. So pop dots are a little bit of a foam dot that is a little bit raised up. But if you don't have a pop dot available, like I don't have a pop dot available right now because I left them at work apparently. So what I'm going to use is chipboard. Chipboard has a little bit of dimension to it. And so what you can do is you can glue a few pieces together to create basically a pop dot or dimension. So I'm going to do those two pieces together and this piece. So I have a layered bit here out of cardboard, and I'm just going to glue that onto the back. If you have a pop dot handy, you guys can use that. And then once I get that on there, then I'm going to put a little bit of glue on that, and then that will go down. But since I don't have my tentacles glued in place yet, can't do that. So now I'm going to glue my tentacles down. I like the idea of all of these, but I'm not sure they're all going to be on there. That's okay. All right. I think I am going to go all the way. No, I'm not. I think I like it just like this. And I'm going to tuck these underneath here because I like the look of that. Okay. It's kind of fun. All right, and I actually want to bring him up a little bit too because I like the idea of having a little bit more dimension there. It doesn't need to have very much dimension, so I'm just going to do one small piece of chipboard here behind it. And by small, I mean like this big apparently. So let's see if I put that right there. Oh, nope, I can see it. So some of this creation process is a little bit of guessing and checking. So don't glue anything down until you're 100% satisfied where something is going to be, because otherwise you're going to do a lot of this pulling up and readjusting and all of that, and it can be kind of a pain. But if you test it, you're like, oh yeah, I like that, then you can go back in and you can always add a little bit of glue underneath it and then stick it down. So there's not very much dimension there, but there's a little bit, which I like. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and trim the rest of this off here. Okay. All right, now we have that. Okay, and now I'm going to do my thinking of you. And I wanted to put this kind of behind it a little bit so that they're... Ooh, I like that. Okay. I'm going to glue this guy down right here. Scoot this over a little bit because I like that texture showing back there in the background. And I'm going to put my faux pop dots here that I'm making behind the sentiment. All right. A little bit more glue there. Okay. All right. And then I'm going to go ahead. Looks like I need to trim this down to size a little bit. Okay. And now I'm going to go ahead and stick this guy on here. I need to trim this guy too. You guys are being awesomely patient while I figure this out. This is how I work, you guys. You're always like, oh, you go so fast, but it's also because I spent time designing and figuring out what I wanted to do. But this is the creative process. Sometimes it takes time. Okay. Sometimes things like this take time. All right, and I like that's at that angle. So I cut that at an angle and now I'm matching up with that edge, and I'm going to do the same thing here. But because I'm not 100% sure where it's going to sit, I'm going to glue it down. Put that corner right along that edge of the paper there. Okay, now we have that. All right, and now I want to incorporate a little bit of this fun ribbon here, which I really, really liked. Because I have this dark blue on this side, the image seems kind of heavy on that left side. So what I'm going to do now is I want to incorporate my ribbon here. And I think what I want to do is I have to decide how I want to do this here. Where do I want to put the ribbon? I definitely want it to be on that side. I don't want it to cover up my image. I'm going to do something like this. That's exactly what I'm going to do. Okay, so I'm going to trim this down. I'm going to take two pieces here. I'm going to put some glue on the back side. I'm going to stick this down and then I'm going to wrap it around the front. Double-sided tape also works great for doing this kind of idea if you're trying to stick something down. And I actually want it to kind of follow this kind of angle that we've already created earlier. So I'm going in this kind of direction. See how that angle and that angle? The idea is that I want those to match. I'm just a little bit off. Not by much, but a little bit. There we go. Okay, now I'm going to do the same thing with my other piece. Sticking that around, and we'll pull that over. Okay, I actually want a little bit more space there. This Nuvo Deluxe adhesive, the fine line glue that I'm using, is so nice for even for gluing these embellishments on the ribbon. It holds the ribbon great, which is just awesome. Okay, I like how that turned out. All right, and I wanted to add some of my little fishies in. My little fishy from earlier. Just gonna hold in place. And then I'm gonna add one more little fishy down here, I think. Okay, all right, now I'm gonna match it onto my card base, and there we have it. So I didn't even end up using this paper, but you know what I like is that when you're adding other little things in, sometimes you get inspired by what's right here in front of you. And so that's why I like to start with doing collage cards by picking up colors of other things that are in that same color palette that might just give inspiration, because sometimes something that's inspiring, the color, you know, everything kind of coming together is so beautiful. You're like, oh, I love this, this, and this. And you start pulling things. You're like, oh, I love how this is coming together. And it can really kind of make like a really awesome kind of a fun project, you know, because one, the fun of hunting for the colors in your craft room or in your collection of stuff, but then also then in building something and creating, you know, if you're ever in getting to the point where you're like totally stuck and you're like, I don't even know where to go from here, I have no idea, no inspiration, what I highly suggest for you is to take a break. Step out of the room, leave, you know, even if it's just for a minute or two, and then walk in and notice what your first impression is of the thing you've created. If you're like, oh, I love it, then you're like, yes, okay, you've done a good job. You figured out, you know, where everything comes together. But if your first impression is, ooh, that doesn't seem right, you know, what is it missing? Do you have too many focal points? Do you have a color that doesn't make sense? You know, work with, when you're putting your card together, check and see what, you know, are you following a theme? Are you following a color palette? Those are the things that you're wanting to notice and pay attention to, so that as you're building your card, you're learning about, okay, these patterns go well together. This movement goes well together. All right, okay.